What do you feel like was like the big shift for you that kind of unlocked that pursuit of like ultimate freedom?
One of the best things a man can do is throw a dart at a world map and book a one-way ticket to somewhere completely random. There is something about changing your environment to influence and help change your state, because when your life's an adventure, you don't need the adventure of pornography or to go out the same clubs with the same friends on a Saturday night. And there's something so beautiful about jumping on a plane and leaving the old you behind. I think it's like a great mark in the sand. Once I enter this plane, I can be anyone I want to be. I can talk however I want to talk. I don't have to be that person that people think I am. I think freedom, sovereignty, autonomy, you can call it many names. It's really an internal state as far as I'm concerned, and less of an external reality. I was about 9 years old when I first asked my mom if I could be homeschooled, because I understood that I was inside a system. And so I was trying to crack the system back then, man. I was like, how do I get out of this? And then sure enough, university came around or college for most of us as we graduate out of high school. And it was no too different. I was like looking to my career. I did the 9-to-5 corporate rat race for a bit. And the same rules applied. I was like, how do I get out of the system? And I just always felt like I was being restricted from what I could truly bring into this world. It really comes down to the man or woman surrendering their ego. And we've all been there where we've had like moments where we're just like super angry, or we're in deep amount of fear. And the ego is really prominent. The shadow, I should actually say, is really prominent in those moments, because it's trying its hardest to like survive. And so it will really deceive you. And this is what I believe that Genesis was talking about at times, even the whole Bible throughout, is not so much like an external reality, aka a demon out there, although they do exist, of course, but really coming down to an internal state where you're like, temptation's coming to pornography, or aka Jesus in the desert, who's been tempted by bread and by, look at this kingdom, if you only bow to me, said Satan, I will give you this world. It was a level of the ego coming in. And when you can take courage and surrender that ego, that shadow, you enter a place of neutrality, and the anger dissipates, fades away, the fear starts to leave, and then there's like this promised land that starts to emerge. And at the start, it's quite vast and bare, and you might not even feel much. Like there's no emotion, and that's the space of neutrality, and it's the gap between where you once were and this new person you're becoming. And so if you continue to venture down that narrow road, as the Bible calls it, you enter the light, you enter heaven. One phrase that I love to come back to that simplifies this a lot for people that might be a bit confused by the nature of what we're talking about is that most people, I would say 99% of the populace, live by the theory that they need to go and have something, and then once they have the thing, they can do something to then become the person. And so it's the complete wrong way around in terms of the equation. The equation should read, become the person first, be, and then you do the thing, and then you have the outcome. And so we've glorified outcomes, whether they're 3D or even 4D outcomes of becoming a better person, more disciplined, better physique, more money, being in Dubai with a Rolex and a Lamborghini, whatever your flavor of lifestyle is. But the problem is that most people are trying to get there through an outcome approach. They're trying to actually have the thing, and once they have the thing, they become the person that is tied to the reality that they've started to manifest. That's not how it works. The universal law is that it's very clear. It's that you become the person first, as you mentioned before. You become the future state. Once that exists inside, everything else comes into being. When it comes to addiction in particular, people feel really shameful and guilty about it. And as we know, it's going against two things. First of all, it's like you're sinking into those lower vibrational frequencies, and therefore you're going to manifest more of that. So like attracts like in the universal laws, right? And so by sitting in the wake of guilt and my addiction, it's only going to fuel more of you going back to that. And so it's like the wrong mindset. And so I think a lot of people, like even myself when I was like growing up in my adolescence era, going back to different addictions of partying and drugs and alcohol, it was like you mentioned before, it's escapism. But fundamentally at its core, it's me counting down the days of counting the days of, man, it's been 14 days since I had a drink. It's been 21 days since I looked at porn. And it's the wrong mindset, right? Because we're starting to compete with ourselves almost. And we're starting to really become the strategist, as we talk about sometimes, in terms of I'm tracking things, I'm trying to just be at a certain benchmark, instead of really trying to understand a new state and become someone completely different. One of the best things a man can do in particular is throw a dart at a world map and book a one-way ticket to somewhere completely random and new. There is something about changing your environment to influence and help change your state, because it's not just about going somewhere and visually seeing somewhere new and some beautiful mountains and things like this. That all can help. Getting back to nature is a major key in all this. But equally the culture and the friend groups that you can pick up along the way. Dude, you're too busy. You're too distracted by the beauty of nature, of doing new things, new activities. You were boxing yesterday, right? At Soma. Before that, you were in Ubud, looking at waterfalls. It's bro, when your life's an adventure, that's what you're alluding to before. You don't need the adventure of pornography or to go out the same clubs with the same friends on a Saturday night, because you've supplemented in a new environment, and that will accelerate the process to the point where you've been living in Bali, say 2-3 years, or wherever in the world. It doesn't have to be Bali. And you look back and you've forgotten who you were. And there's something so beautiful about jumping on a plane and leaving the old you behind. I think it's a great mark in the sand, like a line in the sand of once I enter this plane, I can be anyone I want to be. I can talk however I want to talk. I don't have to be that person that people think I am. And so not just yourself, I've watched other friends and clients go through this, where they've gone to Cambodia or Vietnam, and they've spent time either in the tropics or even in Europe if they're not from there. And I speak to them a year later, how are you doing? Their career's better, their social circle's better. It's not that the country they came from was the problem, it's that they've been this container. And all it does is breeding the same routines, it's breeding the same environment or culture around the environment day in, day out. And so I think if you can change that thing, that's part of the larger picture of how you can really overcome addiction.